to the world. Subscribe now to the Hot 97 YouTube channel. It's Ebro in the Morning with Laura Stiles and Rosenberg.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, Ebro in the Morning. Laura Stiles, Rosenberg's on assignment. Give it up for Allie Love, repping the Brooklyn Nets, but also repping her new Netflix dance competition series, Dance 100, which came out on my birthday, March 17th. Tell us, Allie, you have how many jobs now?
Oh, too many to count. Oh, my gosh. They're not all at once, though.
That's right.
Also, happy belated birthday, by the way.
Thank you very much.
Yes. But I do have a lot of jobs. I do a lot of things, and I think we come from an age back in the day where it's like you do one thing, you got to do one thing really well.
Yeah, not
and
anymore.
currently, we're leaning into that intersectionality. We're recognizing that we're good at multiple things, and so that's what I do is I figure out what I'm good at, and I see how does it all connect, like the pieces to the puzzle.
So take us, you're hosting a dance. I mean, we know you host, right?
Yeah.
So you've been doing that, but how does dance relate to your life?
Yeah, so I grew up, 9 years old, got hit by a car. I found dance through a community center, fell in love with dance, and then every summer I would come to New York and do a summer program at Dance Theater of Harlem when I was in high school. Fell in love with New York City. I was like, I know I want to live there. My mom's like, one condition, you got to go to college. So I went to Fordham University, Lincoln Center campus. I got a bachelor's in fine arts from there in the Alvin Ailey program. Then I moved uptown into Harlem and started my adulthood. And what I recognized, though, at a very young age, especially in college, my junior year, is that dancers don't get paid a lot of money.
That's right.
And you know it's expensive to live here in New York. And I was like, I cannot be a starving artist because I don't even have that luxury because my family don't have money to support me either. So it's just going to be, like, it wasn't going to work out. And so I ended up starting to model. I got signed with Wilhelmina in college, and I started modeling. Then I started doing more commercial dance, like dance with Beyonce, Pitbull, with the Knicks. Then that's how I got into the NBA. I took a hosting class. I was like, I want to get on TV, and I took a hosting class. I remember it was like $637, which is hella expensive at that time. And I took that class, and I said, you know what? This is what I want to do. And so coupled with dance and gigging, I started hosting, and I sent my reel to everyone I knew. I was like, I will host your kid's birthday party for free. I just need some experience.
Wow.
And the Nets called relatively quickly and was like, we're in Brooklyn. We need a new host. You've been in the NBA as a dancer, because I stopped dancing that season, that April. They moved to Barclays Center. They're like, we need a host. December of that same season, or the next season, I was at Barclays Center hosting 18,000 people.
Amazing.
I was nervous as hell. I was like, oh my God.
So, and you're still hosting with the Brooklyn Nets.
10 seasons, rounded out, 10 full seasons. This is our 10th year.
So you have to, I'm sure you love it.
I love our organization. I love the Nets.
I love the organization.
I love NBA. I grew up watching basketball, Miami Heat. I'm from Miami, 305. Like, we watch basketball. I used to be a Heat junior jammer, the little kids that go out there and dance, just so my mom can get free tickets, like up in the nosebleeds. Because again, we couldn't afford tickets. I used to do the same thing with it was called the Miami, or the Ericsson Open, but it's the Miami Open now for tennis. To be a ball girl, I'd be the ball girl, so we get free tickets because it's expensive. And so I just fell in love with sports, in particularly the NBA.
Well, tell us about Dance 100.
Oh, yes. Dance 100 is a dance competition show. Last week, we were streaming Top 10 on Netflix, which is incredible. I filmed it in London for over 3 months. 100 dancers from all over the world, the best dancers, 8 choreographers, the contestants, $100,000 on the line. And here's the catch. It's not like a celebrity telling you you're good or not. You have your own, it's a peer-to-peer review situation where you have experts in the field, i.e. the Dance 100s, the dancers that are performing with the choreographers, that get to judge the choreographers. Ultimately, they choose the one choreographer that's going to win that $100,000.
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
okay.
And
That's fire.
they have to vote in real time. So it's almost like I don't know how they're going to vote. I don't sway their vote. For those of you that have watched and send me those mean DMs, I am not. As much as I do look like a boss and I say I am a boss, in that moment, I do not control the voting. The dancers know what they think. They're the experts. And so I call them to stand behind the person that they think should go on to the next week. And so sometimes you have some shocking moments where you expect your favorite choreographer, you're like, that piece was dope, that was it. And then maybe very few people stand behind them. And, it's pretty interesting.
You are a boss. You're the global lead of Instructor Strategic Initiatives, which is a recent promotion at Peloton.
It is. And I don't know how people found this out, kind of thing. Like, there's a lot of things that I do in life, and I am proud of myself. Like, I always advocate for individuals to be proud of themselves, because I think that, to me, is just, it's so special. But I don't talk about it a lot because sometimes we glamorize every element of our lives. And this is the behind the scenes work. So what that means is basically I'm the intermediary between the instructors and the partnering teams. I come up with a lot of processes. As someone who is a performer, and most performers, we think we're only on stage. I love being behind the stage. So I help write the script for Dance 100. I help write the process for a lot of the things that happen, or the updated processes for a lot of the things that happen at Peloton when it comes to the instructor teams, how we meet with our producers, how we create content, how we pitch content. So I look at the entire process and refine it to make sure that all parties are using their time efficiently, because the economy of time is important. Economy of energy is important. And so that's what my role is.
And also just the comms between teams, making sure things flow, and that when instructors show up to do their work, they know exactly what needs to happen, and it doesn't take a lot of tedious convos to get things across the line. I can relate a lot to you too, in the fact of just doing a lot of things to get to a certain destination in your career, and working in front or behind. But I think for the audience right now, I think it would be awesome to hear about that journey, because doing processes, doing behind the scenes probably wasn't where your mind was when you started on your journey.
No, I had no idea what the hell I was gonna do with my life. I knew I loved dance, but then I came to that crossroads where I was like, this doesn't make any money, and I need to build a life. And I wanted to build a legacy, like the next kind of cornerstone of our legacy with our family, because I'm the first. My mom is one of 10 kids, and I have like 200 cousins. I'm the first to graduate college, not the first to go. So there was one who went, and she didn't make it across the finish line. But she had to go for me to be able to go, to know that I could go, and then I crossed that finish line and graduated. And then I moved away from home. And so being in New York by myself, I really got curious, humbled myself, and I asked mad questions, like loads of questions to everyone. What do you do? How do you do that? I was probably really annoying now that I think about it, in the best way. But I had to figure out what were the opportunities available to me, because growing up, we didn't know anything outside of our hood, like outside of our family, which isn't a bad thing, but I just knew there was more. And so that's when I graduated college. I was like asking everyone, what does it mean to be a dancer? What does it mean to create this career or a model? Also, how much do they make? Because I need to know what the deal is.
Very important question. Yeah.
Exactly. And I realized you only have a finite amount of time in a day. And you want to use that time and leverage that time to maximize you want to put the input in, but the output needs to be greater, i.e. how much you make, or how you show up, or the questions or answers that you receive on the other end. So I started getting curious. I started doing a bunch of things. I was a bottle service waitress in New York City for years, my nighttime job. Bottle service paid a lot of my bills, so that in the daytime, I can go to my castings, I can go to my modeling gigs, I can take hosting classes, I can do continuing education at New School to figure out how to write, so that then I can get a job at Complex and be in front of the camera. And so in terms of what the journey was, it was a bit of a jungle gym of me asking people, what am I good at? Like, you're an expert. Like, how did you get your job? How could I get there? Do you see me there? And then eventually what ended up happening was I leveraged my natural talents. I like to talk a lot, and I was like, this is easy to do for me. It's to talk. And so I was like, hosting is the avenue, and all I need to do is get into the rooms and learn how to be the best host and in the most kind of like mass market. And that's what I did. And that's when, again, your kids' birthday parties, your charity event, I'll do it for free, because I know that I'm going to garner so much insight and so much experience.
But those, you don't do that anymore.
I will do it for free if it's a special occasion. No, money isn't everything, because that's what I said. But I wanted to know, how much could I?
That's right.
Once I start, I did the free time. I did it for free. But I want to know, once I'm real good, how much is real good worth? And that was really important for me.
Well, but then also in there's the lessons, right? And the experience. And how much does experience play into where you've arrived today, right?
Yeah.
Doing all of the different things, right? From a ball girl at tennis when you were, how old did you say, 9?
I was 9, yeah.
Right. To where you are today. Because I'm sure when people come to you with opportunities, it's the experience now. It's the fact that you've done so much, and that you have a way to not only help people who are trying to figure out their path, but organizationally, I'm sure you're able to help because of your experience.
Yeah, and one of the things that I did establish early on is, most people talk about this, like, what's your why, what's your purpose, what's your North Star? And it can change over the course of time, but I knew that I wanted to be the best daughter. And for me, being the best, I want my parents to be proud of me. Like, I want my grandma to turn on TV or turn on the radio and be like, what my daughter just said, the information, I'm proud of it. It's a representative of how far my family has come. And so that was my North Star. I'm not trying to do anything that I felt my family wouldn't be proud of. And so for me, it helped shape where the no's. So when you do reach out and say, do you want to do this? I'm like, actually, I don't think my mom would be super proud of that. Not gonna lie, I didn't tell her that I was a bottle service for a long time, which there's nothing wrong with that. But I knew she would get nervous of like, you're out at nighttime? And I'm like, my dad was like, hustle, make that money, girl. Really, my dad knew. He was like, good job, keep going.
Yeah.
Get that money, get that go. But yeah, the experience in itself, it lends itself to you creating that strategy. Now refining the strategy, saying, okay, what am I good at? What do I love to do? And where can I show up and maximize that time? And so for me, while it was a bit of a trial and error, and you say in the beginning of this conversation how I wear so many hats, they all intersect at the 3 C's. Camera, everything I do has a camera attached to it. Whether I'm teaching a Peloton class, whether I'm hosting the Brooklynettes or a Love Squad event, it's all virtual, right? I'm able to touch so many people globally through that camera. Conversation. I often say this, the catalyst for change is conversation. It was through me having and asking those quote unquote annoying questions that I garnered so much information that I could assess and create self-awareness of what would be next. Catalyst for change is conversation. You don't make any decision about yourself without a conversation, internally, externally, dialogue. And then the third is cultivating community, is making sure that the spaces that I hold, that I'm occupying, that I can expand to make sure when you show up, you feel welcome, you feel there's an entry point, whether, again, it's my class and you're like, that's my jam. Like, I love that music, or I love that song, or I love that genre, or I love what you're saying, or I love that it was accessible. I felt like I could succeed. Whether it's the Nets game, you feel entertained. Like, no matter what's happening on the court, I don't care about the score, but you felt entertained.
I had a good time.
Yeah, and I think for me, it's like cultivating that community. So 3 C's, camera, conversation, community. When I stepped back after doing a load of stuff in my early 20s of trying to figure it all out, I wrote it all down. What am I good at? And I keep saying this, and what do I love to do? Where do those two things intersect? And that's where I live, at least for the immediate future. And that's when I said, you know what? That camera, when it comes on, it lights up my whole life. And it took me a long time to say that, because that seems a little like, okay, relax. But it's like leveraging the thing that you can do more or do better than anyone else, or even longer, because endurance is really the superpower. Consistency is the superpower. So it's what can you do longer? And I found out I can talk, obviously, for a long time. I can literally be around people. I love being around people for a long time. It feeds my soul. And I can literally be in front of the camera for a long time. And none of those things deplete me. They actually energize me.
That's beautiful. Ali Love.
So proud of you.
Netflix dance competition, Dance 100, out right now. Also, if you end up at a Brooklyn Nets game, she'll be on the mic at a home game. And she's you can see her on Peloton.
Yes.
In front of the camera sometimes, but also behind the camera.
There you go.
Are you, I guess, I get asked this a lot, and I'm old, so I don't really have an answer anymore. I never really did have an answer, because I was just kind of on I was just on a journey, and I was just taking it, moment by moment. But what are your plans for the future for yourself? Are you wanting to do more writing? Are you wanting to do more producing of shows, and writing and producing? Where do you see yourself on this journey?
Yeah, so I think right now, I agree with you. It's like that 5-year plan is so tough to recognize, because if I think about it, 5 years before I started at Peloton wasn't even created.
That's right.
So I don't ever want to put myself in a box where now I've said I was going to do something and I don't do it. And I don't love that. So for me, right now I'm going deep instead of going wide. I'm looking at all the avenues to which I play in, and I'm very blessed and fortunate to work hard to play in those sandboxes. It's like, how can I go deeper? Hopefully Dance 100 gets picked up for a second season. How can I come to the table for that script writing and say, these were my takeaways. Here's some additional dancers or choreographers we should look at. When at Peloton, I created programs like Hidden Hills or Recovery Rides or Sundays with Love. It's like looking at what we're offering, how can I go deeper into that to say, what are some additional things that we can offer that potentially will service our members? So currently, I'm going deeper instead of going wide. I'm documenting. And maybe it's kind of old school, but I'm writing everything down. I'm not documenting video, because everybody's making a documentary, but it's like, how can I document and write things down of what am I going through? How does it feel in this moment? Because I feel like there's something beautiful with words and being able to read words and paint that picture for yourself. And I'm really into, which is kind of quirky. It is quirky. I'm really into British murder mysteries. So and in my mind, I'm doing work, so don't judge me. I want to potentially write a murder mystery one day. It's so outside of my brand. It's so, like, in terms of my reputation, no one would guess it.
Right.
But I want to use
it's a
all
passion.
all the things. Imagine, like, a murder mystery happens in a New York City club. Like, I can pull all of the things I've done into a place and potentially have, like, a murder mystery. It's a goal, but
that would be fun.
Yeah.
And that's something you absolutely can achieve.
yeah, and it makes me, the fact that every time I say it, it makes me smile, like really grin, I know there's there. I'm like, let's explore it. It may not happen in 5 years, maybe it happened in 15, but that's what I said, I'm going
and
deep.
also, too, you seem fulfilled. You seem filled with joy and happiness. So whether it's the amount of money you want to make is kind of becomes, if you're sustaining yourself, right, and things are in a good place, it doesn't really, the money doesn't really matter anymore. It's about the joy, right?
Yeah.
And it's about the journey.
That's true, but money does matter because...
No, I mean, it matters,
it
but you're
matters,
making
like,
it. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Right.
'Cause
When you're not making it, it's when it matters that much more. But when you're making a good amount and you're sustaining yourself and your family and you kind of have a future financial plan based on what you have today, I'm sure you do. You seem very together in that way. It makes it easier to just think about things that fulfill you and make you happy, right?
Yes,
because you
that
have
is
a
true.
couple of dollars coming in.
That is very true, yes.
You know, and I think in some ways too, when you exude that energy of joy, more people want to work with you, right? Like they want to have you around because you're bringing a positive energy. You're not bringing like a thirsty, like, you know, scratching to survive kind of energy. And I think some people watching this conversation need to know that, right? When you walk into a room with people who are trying to create or people who are trying to do something because they love it, when you bring an energy to the table that kind of is kind of a thirsty, needy energy to it, it can kind of deplete in many ways kind of the joy out of things. And when you lose that joy, it's not as entertaining. It's not as fun. And I think sometimes the audience can feel that, right?
I completely agree. And I think two things for those folks that are listening of just like what's next for me or what's now. In your what's now and in your what's next, any room that you walk into, you should be the smartest of the people in the room in the sense of you should know them. Research them, know something about them. And I think number two is repeat their words back to them. So I think we forget the power of knowing each other. And that's what I mean about cultivating community. It's like, what I heard you say is this, or I read that you wrote, you know, that you said this. Now you have people invested in you. You have people invested in your journey. And to your point, it's like you're no longer thirsty, you're curious, and you have a point of reference. It's like you know everybody in the room. You're the smartest in knowing every person in the room. And you probably can quote them in some capacity to say, hey, you said this. Can I ask more questions about that? And immediately, if you did that to me, I'll be like, yeah, the fact that you know I said something.
Cared enough to know.
Exactly, that thoughtfulness, that preparedness. Preparedness is my love
That
language.
is important because I feel like nowadays people are too cool sometimes. You know what I mean? They don't want to seem thirsty. But the reality is they could be missing like a huge opportunity for connection.
Yeah, and I think it starts with just doing that research, like sincerely doing that research.
Well, and for you, Allie, you said you love people.
I do.
And so that builds a automatic kind of connection. You have that gift, right? And you've honed in on that, where some people don't necessarily, they haven't really figured that connection to other humans out, which I think sometimes stunts their growth. They don't know how to connect, right? Especially nowadays where we do so much on our phones. We do so much in text. We do so much virtually, right? You have a generation of people who that's not their strength, is connecting with other humans. They don't know how to get out of the house and do that.
Yeah.
Right. And that is a part of doing business. If you want to be in entertainment, there's a lot of people who want to be in entertainment and they might be funny and they might be talented in some way. And they might be compelling in some way, but because they can't connect with the other people who may be on the set or people with other strengths, and I think identifying your strengths like you did, you talked about, this is what I'm good at.
Yeah, the camera, the conversation, the community.
Right.
Like this is one of the things too, to your point though, that I think that is getting harder and harder, and it's because we forget to do it, is eye contact. Looking at someone in their eyes, like when I walk in a room, this is your house. Like I have to acknowledge you, then your house, especially in a space that I'm invited into, I make sure that there is eye contact. And I think that subsides a lot of the anxiety of, well, what do they think of me? It's more of how am I making them feel? It's like taking back that power. So one of the things is you definitely want to be in a space and listen to the folks that are talking, maybe be prepared before you walk in if you can. And then if it's available to you, make eye contact. I get that's not available to everyone, but it's more of like that contact. Whatever that is available to you, make that contact. Make that point where I'm invested, I'm present. And I think that does, I've noticed for me, it's just the anxiety of, oh my gosh, they're judging me, or, you know, I'm better when I'm on my phone, or I'm better when I'm not in person. It's like, it's just that energy a little bit. For sure.
Ali Love, ladies and gentlemen. Look for her Netflix dance competition, Dance 100 at the Brooklyn Nets and on Peloton. Thank you for coming by the program, and congratulations on all your success.
Congrats, Ali.
Thank you so much. This is amazing.